The man in the back of the lecture hall isn't listening for heresy. He's listening for a question mark. The air in the great hall of the university is cold, but it crackles with something hot and dangerous: thought. You sit on a rough-hewn bench, shivering less from the chill seeping through the stone and more from the thrill of the argument. Dust motes dance like tiny angels in the shafts of jewel-toned light, pouring through the high stained glass windows. The air smells of damp wool, beeswax, and the sharp, dry scent of old parchment. The sound of a heavy boot on the stone floor of the cloister outside your door. You freeze, every muscle tightening into a knot of pure ice. It's long past Compline, the final prayer. Every other sister is in her cell, asleep or in silent contemplation. No one should be walking the cloister. The footsteps are heavy, slow, deliberate. They are the footsteps of a man. They stop directly outside your door, and the world holds its breath with you. It is the direct ancestor of every food bank, every underground activist network, every community pantry that springs up today when the official systems of power fail the people they are meant to serve. This isn't just about hunger, it is about dignity. Years later, the courthouse is a ruin, its roof a skeleton of blackened timbers. The Lord is long dead, the village changed, but the secrets remain. You are in that abandoned hall of judgment, the floorboards groaning under your weight. You're looking for something else, a rumor of hidden coin. The clever fox, however, finds 3 hollow logs by the Whispering Creek and hides his family's share before the bear's brutish wolf guards can collect it. The crowd roars with laughter when the fox tells the bear he's sorry, but the bees simply weren't generous this season. It's a charming fable, a lesson in cleverness. But you don't laugh, you can't, because what 99% of people, including the smiling priest, don't understand is that this isn't a fable. It's a map. The greedy bear is Lord Valerius, whose castle looms on the hill. Your neighbors believe the miasma, the bad air itself, carries the sickness. They are not entirely wrong, but for all the wrong reasons. Your mother doesn't look up. Her hands are steady as she grinds herbs in a stone mortar. The pestle makes a soft, rhythmic thump-thump scrape. That is the only prayer in this house. The scent of garlic, vinegar, and something bitter, wormwood, overpowers the smell of the street. She pours the dark liquid into a small clay cup. Drink, she commands, her voice a low whisper. The tonic is vile. For using ancient knowledge to save a child the priest had already given last rites, or for providing remedies that competed with the church's monopoly on miracles. The Malleus Maleficarum, the infamous witch-hunting manual, wasn't a theological text. It was a weapon of propaganda. It spends an entire venomous section condemning midwives, accusing them of infanticide, cannibalism, and offering newborns to demons. This was a calculated campaign to sever communities from their traditional healers, to make them utterly dependent on the church for both physical and spiritual salvation. You are standing in the middle of the most audacious secret in Christendom, and the next step is not one of faith, but of decryption. Your work is almost done for the night. You've added the formula for a poultice that can draw the poison from a festering wound, a secret passed to you by the abbess, who learned it from her predecessor, a chain of hidden wisdom stretching back into the darkness. But there is one more detail to add. A tiny symbol hidden within the scrollwork of the letter A. It's not a letter, it's a map marker. The location of another book, the one they say holds the key to Scrape. A haunch will be wrapped in burlap and left in the hollow of a lightning-struck elm. A white stone placed on the third fence post from the bridge will signal that the cache is ready. Another villager, a woman who sells eggs no one can afford, will collect it before sunrise and distribute it in secret. A sliver of liver for the sick girl, a few ribs for the widow. It's a quiet, invisible rebellion fought with whispers and hidden parcels. The crowd is rapt, their faces a mixture of mud, sun, and simple joy. You stand at the edge, your hand resting on the rough bark of an elm, feeling the hum of the crowd through the wood. The local priest, Father Thomas, is here. He leans on his staff, a beatific smile on his lips, as the storyteller weaves a tale of a clever fox and a greedy, dim-witted bear. The story is simple. The bear demands a new tithe of honey from all the forest creatures. The greatest lie ever told wasn't that the plague was God's wrath. The lie was that it couldn't be stopped. From behind the thick oak door, you hear it, the slow, rhythmic scrape of wood on stone. The cart, its wheels grind pebbles into dust, a sound that has replaced the morning birdsong. Then comes the cry, a voice cracked with grief and exhaustion. Bring out your dead! The air filtering through the cracks in your walls is thick, a foul soup of death, decay, and the desperate. Cloying sweetness of burning rosemary. What they don't want you to know is that this was a healthcare system run by women for women, operating entirely outside the grasp of male-dominated institutions. They couldn't tax it, they couldn't sanctify it, and so they had to destroy it. Historians have focused on the religious hysteria of the witch trials for centuries, but suppressed court documents reveal a darker, more pragmatic truth. The vast majority of accusations against these witches weren't for cursing crops or hexing livestock. They were for healing. You look from the priest, still droning on about saints, to the kaleidoscopic light falling on the floor. The Bible stories in the glass are a distraction, a beautiful lie to conceal a deeper truth. The real message isn't in the pictures of the saints. It's in the shapes between them, the colors they chose, the geometry that holds them together. It's a map, hidden in a prayer. And the key in your hand, you now know, is the only thing that can read it. It's never been about heresy. It's about control. Because knowledge that is shared cannot be owned, and a mind that learns for itself cannot be ruled. Your detailed drawing of the human heart, with its 4 chambers, is a rebellion against the idea that the soul's workings are a mystery only God and his priests can know. A drop of sweat falls from your brow, landing perilously close to the wet blue ink. You hold your breath, watching it bead on the vellum. In the distance, a dog barks once, a sharp, lonely sound that echoes across the frozen fields. The forbidden truth is that a sophisticated black market, a mutual aid network, operated in the shadows of every fiefdom. They were called the Guilds of the Hungry, and they were the first true social safety nets, built by the people, for the people, in direct defiance of a law designed to kill them. When you butcher the doe with your skinning knife, the steam rising from its body into the cold night air, you know only a fraction will go to your own family. The X you sign your name with isn't a mark of ignorance. It's a declaration of war they can't read. The air at the market fair is a thick stew of smells, roasting pig fat, sweat-soaked wool, damp earth, and the sharp tang of manure. A river of people flows around you, a current of shouts and laughter pulling you towards its center, where a storyteller stands on an upturned barrel. His voice is a gravelly rasp, a sound like stones tumbling downhill, but it cuts through the din. A message left by one of those secret custodians for another. It tells you that this holy place isn't just built on a pagan wellspring of power. It's actively hiding something, protecting it. The symbol whispers a terrifying question into the dead air of the crypt. What did they find down here that was so powerful, so dangerous, that they had to build a church on top of it, not to crush it, but to contain it? Her hands, though stained with soil and herbs, are steady as she pours a dark, steaming liquid into a clay cup. This is forbidden knowledge, a secret currency of female power passed down from mother to daughter in hushed tones, far from the ears of fathers and priests. This tea, she explains, can ease a coming birth, turning hours of screaming agony into a manageable tide of pain. Or, if whispered for in time, it can stop a life before it truly begins. It is a choice, a small, fragile pocket of control in a world that offers you none. The greatest secret of the Middle Ages isn't something that happened 1,000 years ago. It's that the very same systems of control are humming silently all around you, hiding in plain sight. They built a story about a dark and ignorant past to make you grateful for the gilded cage of the present. They lied about then. What else are they lying about now? The answers are not in this story. They are in the ones we will uncover next. They were hacking the system from the inside. Suddenly, the weight in your pocket feels different. The key, the one you were told was from a fake relic. You thought it was for a chest, for a lock made of iron. You were wrong. The metallic chill of it against your fingers feels like a shock. You realize, with a breath-stealing certainty, that its teeth and grooves are not meant for a tumbler. It's a cipher, a lens, an instruction manual designed to do one thing: to read the hidden patterns of light and color in one specific, forgotten window. She wasn't just a mystic. She was a brilliant doctor, a scientist charting the body and the earth when the church insisted all healing came only from prayer. You are her descendant. This forbidden ink is your inheritance. This is the real war, the one that's never recorded by the men who write the chronicles. It's a quiet, desperate battle to keep the light of knowledge from being extinguished. It's the same reason that today, a new idea, a grassroots movement, or an independent research group is so often feared by established institutions. It's not about heresy. It is for the widow by the creek, whose hands shake too much to mend her own fishing nets. The metallic taste of fear is in your mouth, colder than the iron arrowhead you knock to your string. You draw, the bow groaning like a dying man. You hold your breath, and the world goes silent. The arrow whispers through the air. You don't hear it land. You feel it. A soft, wet thud that is the most forbidden and beautiful sound in the world. You are part of a secret. He said the new cathedral stones are lighter in color because they come from a quarry further up the river. A quarry owned by the bishop's own cousin. The money doesn't just go to God. It goes to them. And you suddenly realize you haven't bought your father out of a spiritual prison. You've just bought another stone for your own. Believing all knowledge was sacred, They formed secret societies within the monasteries, preserving the very texts and artifacts the church leadership ordered destroyed. They became a library of the damned, hoarding the old magic, the ancient astronomy, the forbidden histories. They were walking heresies, living a double life in the heart of the institution that would have burned them for their secrets. And the symbol here, on this crypt floor, it matches the one on the forbidden page you carry. This isn't just a forgotten carving left by ancient builders. This is a signpost. It's a key. Outside, the wind howls a lonely hymn, but in here, the only sounds are the soft pop and hiss of the fire, and the rhythmic thump, thump, thump of a stone pestle grinding seeds in a wooden bowl. This is the place the priest warns you about, the cottage on the edge of the village where shadows grow long and God's light supposedly fails. The woman turns from the hearth. There are no warts, no hooked nose. Her face is a map of seasons, etched with the lines of 1,000 births and 100 sorrows. The financial systems made so complex they feel like the alchemy we just left behind, a magic understood only by the high priests in their towers. It is the same strategy. They buried the truth about medieval medicine, about decentralized communities, about philosophy, for one reason: to make you believe that progress and salvation only come from the top down, to make you forget that the power to heal, to build, to think, and to survive has always resided within you. 99% of the official truths you live by are designed to keep you dependent, obedient. Astrological alignments that cause a single beam of light to strike a specific spot on the floor only on the summer solstice, and pagan symbols like the green man tucked away in the shadows. This wasn't an act of faith. It was the ultimate act of subversive compliance. It was a way of preserving the old knowledge under the very nose of the institution dedicated to stamping it out. It's the medieval equivalent of a modern coder hiding a backdoor in corporate software, or a dissident artist embedding a political message in a commercial mural. The sound is a soft, wet whisper against the ceramic pot, an ASMR quality secret in the crushing silence. As you paint the flower's petals, you think of her, Hildegard von Bingen. The world remembers her as a mystic, a prophet who spoke with God. But the abbess has told you the truth the histories try to erase. Recent excavations at her long-abandoned abbey didn't just find a chapel. They unearthed the foundations of a sophisticated infirmary, a pharmacy, and a botanical garden filled with over 200 medicinal herbs. They were a tool of starvation, a weapon of control. To make a man utterly dependent on the one who owns the grain, you must first make everything else illegal to eat. It was a carefully designed system to break the human spirit. But the human spirit does not break. It goes underground. You see a flicker of movement, a doe, her coat the color of twilight. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic, desperate drum. This isn't for sport. This is for the Finn soup that will keep Thomas's daughter alive one more week. But as you look from the paper to the priest's calculating eyes, you understand its true hidden meaning. This symbol isn't for the eternity of your salvation. It's for the eternity of your debt. You clutch the paper and walk out from the cathedral's great shadow, back into the harsh light of the world. The coin is gone. The fear is not. A cold dread settles in your stomach as you remember what the village elder whispered last night. his voice a dry rustle of leaves. They didn't destroy the old magic. They rebranded it. It's no different from a modern politician who publicly condemns an industry on television, while privately taking its money and profiting from its power. It is the oldest lie of institutions. Condemn what you cannot control, then secretly exploit it. But the forbidden knowledge goes deeper than that. Some monks, the quiet custodians of knowledge in their cold scriptoriums, went further. They saw themselves not just as servants of Christ, but as guardians of all human wisdom. The greatest lie they ever told you wasn't about dragons or demons. It was about the woman they called a witch. 99% of people still believe the caricature, the cackling hag, the consort of Satan. But that image was a weapon, crafted to conceal a terrifying truth about power. You are inside her hut. The air is so thick with the scent of boiling herbs, you can almost taste it. The sharp, minty tang of pennyroyal, the earthy sweetness of raspberry leaf. It clings to the damp thatch above and the rough wool of your clothes. The institution of power, acting in its own self-interest, understood a truth that has never changed. If you control what people know and what they fear, you control them. It was so successful, we are still living in its renovated wings. You can feel its echoes now, can't you? The inconvenient science that vanishes when it threatens profits. The complex histories boiled down into simple, patriotic myths. The metallic taste of fear, expertly cultivated by the nightly news to steer your vote, to sell you safety. They focus on the official iconography, the approved story written for the masses. What they don't want you to know is that the men who built this place, the master masons, were not just laborers. They were initiates, members of secretive guilds who passed down a body of knowledge that was ancient when this cathedral was just a quarry. Knowledge that was pre-Christian. They embedded it all right here in plain sight. Sacred geometry that dictates the proportions of the arches, mapping the cosmos in a way the church would call heresy. They have no idea that the woman who rules this abbey, your abbess, is more powerful than most lords. She commands vast tracts of land, manages an economy of wool and grain that could rival a small town, and answers to no man but the Pope himself, and even he is a very, very long way away. These nunneries aren't prisons for unwanted daughters. They are the last libraries, the secret laboratories of a world determined to forget. You dip your brush into a paste of crushed lapis lazuli, the blue more vibrant than the sky itself. In the village, a mile from here, Thomas's youngest daughter coughs a dry, rattling cough that promises a small grave before the first frost. The Lord's grain stores are full, his hunting dogs fat and sleek, but the tithes have bled your village dry. History paints a picture of you as a starving, helpless peasant, waiting for the Lord's charity or God's mercy. That is a lie. Helpless men don't walk into the king's wood at midnight with a bow. 99% of people see the harsh forest laws as simple property protection. They sell you a dream while wrapping you in chains. The church sold you heaven while shackling your soul to their ledger books. As you stare at the indulgence, you notice something in the parchment, a faint watermark, visible only when you hold it to the candlelight. It is a coiled serpent, a dragon eating its own tail. You've seen it before, carved into the stone of the oldest tombs, but it feels different here. It's supposed to mean eternity, God's endless grace. They call it syncretism, a deliberate, calculated policy of merging pagan holidays, symbols, and even deities with Christian ones to make conversion a frictionless transaction. Think of it. The evergreen tree brought inside to celebrate the winter solstice, a pagan symbol of life in the face of death, becomes the Christmas tree. The eggs and rabbits of Eostra, the Germanic goddess of the dawn and fertility, become the symbols of Christ's resurrection at Easter. The halo of light you see around a saint's head, stolen directly from depictions of the sun god Sol Invictus. It's a secret that could get you both killed. A piece of a puzzle that hints at a body of lost knowledge so profound, its suppression changed the course of human history forever. The air in this final room is still. The ghosts of the lives you have just lived, the blacksmith, the midwife, the condemned heretic, they fade like breath on a cold morning, leaving only you and a secret. The secret is not what they did to the past, it's what they did to your future. What if the darkness was not an accident? What if it was architecture? A grand and terrible project of social engineering. They didn't want a dark age. They wanted a cage, a prison for the mind, built not from stone, but from ignorance and fear. And from its mouth, instead of a spout for water, spills a cascade of carved stone leaves and vines. Its eyes are wide, its face a mask of primal energy. It's him, the Green Man, a symbol not of heaven, but of the earth, of the deep, dark forest, and the cycle of death and rebirth that has nothing to do with resurrection. A pagan god hiding in the rafters of a Christian church. And this is the secret that 99% of people, even the most devout art historians, will never understand. In the margins, in a script so small it looks like spider silk, you write your own observations. 2 leaves, boiled, slows a racing heart. 3 stops it forever. This is knowledge the church has forbidden, knowledge they call witchcraft. What they don't want you to know is that these walls, meant to keep the world out, have become a secret fortress for the truth. 99% of people picture a nun as a bride of Christ, meek and cloistered. Her days a gentle rhythm of prayer and servitude. Every snap of a twig is the drop of the hangman's door. You are a poacher, and what they don't want you to know is that this act isn't a crime of greed. It's an act of revolution. Your fingers are numb, but you can still feel the familiar grain of the yew bow in your hand, the tension of the sinew string against your fingertips. The air carries the damp, loamy scent of decay and rebirth. You can hear your own breath, a ragged counterpoint to the chirping of crickets. You could pay now to ensure prayers would be said for your great-grandchildren, creating a perpetual revenue stream from the fear of a fire you would never live to see. It is the birth of psychological marketing, linking an intangible product, salvation, to your most primal, inescapable fear. What happens after the darkness comes? It is the exact same model that would be perfected 700 years later. The modern credit industry, which sells financial freedom by trapping you in a cycle of inescapable debt, learned its most valuable lesson from this very room. A story of good triumphing over darkness. It is a lie. The church didn't just build on top of pagan holy sites to steal their power. It did something far more insidious. It absorbed them. It swallowed the old ways whole, put a Christian cloak on them, and sold them back to the people as salvation. This was the ultimate hypocrisy, a spiritual bait and switch conducted over centuries. Church records, the ones sealed away from prying eyes, don't even hide it. On it is a drawing, in faded ink, of the human skull. But it's unlike anything you have ever seen. It's drawn in cross-section, showing the layers of bone, the delicate membranes, and a detailed, impossibly complex rendering of the brain within. It's an anatomical map hundreds of years ahead of its time. "They burn us for knowing this," he whispers, his voice rough. "They burn the books, but they can't burn the truth if we keep it alive." He won't tell you where it came from. The drawing feels more dangerous than the drill ever did. You are not alone. It is the official story, the only story, the one sanctioned and paid for by men in palaces. But your eyes drift upwards, past the saints and the martyrs, past the carefully constructed narrative of sin and salvation, to the places where the shadows are deepest, to the places no one is meant to look. High above, clinging to a stone beam like a frozen nightmare, is a face. It is not an angel. It is not a demon from any Bible you know. It's a gargoyle, unseen by the worshippers below for 500 years. The air is thick with the scent of melted beeswax, old paper, and something else. The sharp, metallic tang of fear in the back of your throat. You are supposed to be copying the Psalms, letter by perfect, pious letter. But the book hidden beneath the heavy psalter is different. It's a medical text, rescued from a burning library in Cordoba, its pages filled with the wisdom of the Moors. And you are not just copying it, you are adding to it. Your hand, steady, despite the tremor in your heart, paints the delicate green veins of a foxglove leaf. The crime that carried the death penalty wasn't murder, it was feeding a child. The king's law said the deer in this forest belonged to him, but the gnawing in your belly belongs to no man. You press your body against the cold, rough bark of an oak, the wood scraping against your thin tunic. The moon is a sliver of bone, offering no comfort, only just enough light to make your shadow a traitor. Every rustle of leaves is the sound of the Lord's reeve coming to drag you to the gallows. The priest said he was a good man, but not a perfect one. He is in the flames now, you are told, burning, suffering, and only you can lessen his agony. This isn't charity, it's a ransom note from God, delivered by his earthly agents. You see the families ahead of you, their faces etched with the same terror. They are not just buying indulgences for themselves or their recently departed. Newly discovered financial records show that the church sold perpetual chantries, prayer services for the dead, like futures contracts. A belief in the turning of the seasons, in the sacredness of the earth, in a world that was round, not flat. It is pre-Christian. And what they don't want you to know, the secret that would shatter the faith of millions, is that it is not here by accident. 99% of people believe that the new faith arrived like a cleansing fire, burning away the pagan superstitions and building a new world on the ashes. This is the story they tell in the stained glass windows. The story the priests thunder from the pulpit. There's a soft, wet pop, a release of pressure so profound it feels like your soul is leaving your body. The blinding pain behind your eye vanishes, replaced by a dull, warm ache. You survived. You are alive. Later, as you sip a bitter herbal tea, the surgeon unrolls a small bundle of cloth. He handles what's inside with a reverence you've only ever seen priests give to holy relics. He shows it to you, his eyes burning with a dangerous light. It's a page of parchment, brittle and scorched black at the edges, as if rescued from a fire. It was the sigil for this entire underground faith, a network of thinkers and healers dedicated to preserving the one truth that could set humanity free, that we are enough. You hold the proof in your hands. The weight of it is immense, the responsibility crushing. This knowledge has a cost, paid in blood by everyone who protected it before you, a cost you now inherit. And as you close the cover, another sound joins the whisper of your own breathing. A slow, heavy scrape, the sound of a stone slab moving from the other side of the room. Light doesn't just illuminate this space, it bleeds into it, fractured into 1,000 divine colors by the stained glass windows. Your skin is painted in sapphire and ruby. You crane your neck, feeling the pull in your sinews, trying to take it all in. It's designed to make you feel small. It works. A priest, his voice a low, resonant hum that seems to make the very air vibrate, is explaining the images in the glass. He points a bony finger. There, you see Jonah, cast from the whale. And here, the Blessed Virgin, her heart pierced by 7 sorrows. The ink that stains your fingers isn't for God. It's for a truth far more dangerous. In the deep, prayer-soaked silence of the Abbey scriptorium, you lean over a page of vellum, and with a brush made from 3 squirrel hairs, you commit an act of heresy that could see you burned. The candle flame shudders, a tiny, terrified soul in the vast, cold dark. Your shadow, a hunched and monstrous thing, writhes on the stone wall behind you, a silent accomplice to your crime. You've been piecing its clues together, following its cryptic map. The coordinates, the final verse you deciphered, under a sliver of moonlight. They don't point to a monastery. They don't lead to a place of prayer and salvation. They point to an old, abandoned courthouse on the edge of the woods. The place where these stories were written. The place where the lies were born. The song was never a promise of escape. It was a warning. The secret, buried in monastery ledgers that are only now being deciphered, is that the church didn't just stumble upon this wealth. They manufactured the crisis that created it. They took the vague, shadowy concept of purgatory, a waiting room for the soul, and relentlessly marketed it into a terrifying second life of fire and torment. They sold fear, and the product was relief. A piece of paper. You trace the spidery script with your finger. Your father died last winter, his chest rattling with a cough that smelled of rot. With a grunt, you heave the heavy stone aside. The grating sound of stone on stone is a sacrilege in this crushing silence. A sound that makes the fine hairs on your arms stand rigid. There in the flickering light is the carving. It's a spiral, a triple-armed vortex flowing into itself, a symbol as old as the hills outside, as old as the river that cuts through the valley. It does not belong here. This is a house of the cross, of the straight line, of stark sacrifice. This flowing, cyclical symbol is from another time, another belief. In one fell swoop, they outlawed surgery, branding the surgeon's scalpel as profane and the healer's knowledge as heresy. Suddenly, your choice becomes clear. It's the same logic used today when a simple, low-cost cure is systematically discredited by a corporation that sells an expensive, lifelong treatment. They don't just control the cure. They control what you're allowed to believe is a cure. The priest offered you a path to heaven through suffering. This man, this Bimer surgeon, offers you a path to life on earth, but the church says it will cost you your eternal soul. The grinding stops. 99% of recorded history is the story of an institution trying to convince you that you are small, helpless, and in desperate need of their salvation. It's a story whispered from pulpits and screamed from pyres. It's the same story told today by different institutions with different names, and it is the oldest lie in the world. This book proves it. You trace the symbol on the first page, its edges still browned and brittle. The fire-scorched page from the monastery. It wasn't just a marker for a plant, or a crypt, or a bank. They told you this was a monument to God, a prayer carved in stone. But the truth is, it's a cage, built to contain a much older, wilder faith. You stand in the heart of the great cathedral, and the air itself feels ancient. It's cold, a deep mineral cold that seeps up from the flagstones and into your bones. A single cough from a distant corner echoes for an eternity, a tiny human sound swallowed by the immense vaulted silence. Above you, stone ribs arch into the gloom like the skeleton of a leviathan. It is the beginning of your own war. The purpose was never to determine guilt, but to demonstrate the power of the authority administering the test. It's the medieval version of a televised show trial in an authoritarian state, or a reality TV show carefully edited to create a villain the public will despise. It isn't about truth. It's about manufacturing a narrative that keeps the powerful in power and you in your place. And you realize something that makes your blood run cold. The folk song, the one you've been humming, the one that promises a hidden sanctuary. The metallic chink as it lands in the heavy oak collection box is a sound sharper and louder than any prayer. It is the sound of a closing lock. In exchange, he hands you a small slip of parchment, an indulgence, a legal document signed and sealed, promising to shave 100 years off your sentence in purgatory. 99% of people think indulgences were just a corrupt, cynical tax. They were so much more. They were the engine of the most brilliant and brutal economic system ever devised. Your single tallow lamp throws a weak, trembling circle of gold against an ocean of darkness, making the shadows of the support pillars leap and writhe like tormented spirits. You are beneath the Norman chapel now, in a place the living are not meant to see, a place where the prayers from the nave above are just a muffled, meaningless hum. Your fingers are numb, the blood long retreated from them, but you feel it. Beneath a loose flagstone, your searching touch finds not smooth, worn rock, but a pattern, a texture. The real horror of medieval medicine wasn't the drill, it was the conspiracy to suppress it, because this procedure and others like it worked without divine intervention. It proved that a man's hand, his knowledge, could cast out a demon that prayer could not touch. It gave power to healers, not to priests. In the cold halls of power, a decision was made. Records from the Council of Tours in 1163 show the Church passing a devastating edict. They officially banned all clergy from practicing any form of medicine that involved cutting or burning. This is the belief that you can find salvation in reason, comfort in nature, and God within your own heart. And that is what they were so afraid of. Not paganism, not science, not magic. They were afraid of you. They were terrified of human sovereignty. This is the secret that shatters every assumption about the medieval world. The Church wasn't fighting the devil. It was fighting the idea that you didn't need them to find God. The deception is a container for a secret. The key is now buried inside the holiest of objects, a place no one would ever dare to look, protected by the very faith it was designed to exploit. And you realize, with a cold dread that tastes like metal on your tongue, that this key unlocks a door far more dangerous than any earthly treasury. It unlocks a truth the sisters of the nunnery are willing to build a fortress of lies to protect. The markings aren't for towns or rivers. They correspond to the locations of several powerful nunneries, places the history books call sanctuaries of God, but which women knew as something else. Fortresses of escape, places a woman could disappear, taking refuge not in prayer, but in the one loophole the church couldn't easily close. His thumb rubs the back of your hand, a gesture of ownership. You stare at the flickering altar candle, and in its reflection, you don't see a wife. You see the faint lines of your secret map, and you know this ceremony isn't an end. It's an advertisement for the consequences of descent. 99% of people have heard of trial by ordeal, the act of plunging a hand into boiling water or carrying a hot iron to prove innocence. They imagine it as a crude, faith-based system of justice. The truth is far more sinister. It was a psychological weapon, a tool of absolute control. The outcome was almost always fixed. Suppressed court records from regional lords, documents hidden for centuries, reveal the horrifying secret. Confessions were often written by the scribes before the torture even began. It is not for bread. It is not for the scrap of leather needed to fix your son's worn-out shoe. It is the price of time. The priest approaches. His robes are clean, dyed a deep crimson that seems to drink the flickering light. His hands are soft, his fingernails immaculate. When he holds out his palm, it is an accusation against your own. Your knuckles swollen from the harvest, your nails packed with the dirt of the fields that barely keep you alive. You drop the coin. The greatest lie the church ever told was not about God. It was about the gods they claimed to have vanquished. The air in the crypt is a solid thing, a weight in your lungs that tastes of cold stone and the deep, silent rot of 1,000 years. It's a cold that has nothing to do with weather and everything to do with absence. The absence of light, of life, of warmth. They found astonishingly high survival rates etched into the bone itself. The edges of the holes worked sharp and fractured as they would be if the patient died on the table. They were smooth, rounded, covered in a delicate lattice of new bone regrowth. This is the anatomical signature of healing. Proof that these patients didn't just survive the procedure, they lived for years, even decades afterward. This wasn't butchery. It was advanced, life-saving neurosurgery, performed with crude tools, but a shocking degree of success. So, if it worked, why was it a secret? Why was it forbidden? What they don't want you to know is that the greatest secrets are never fragmented. They are always a single, terrifying whole. The diagrams of the planets are not just astronomy. They are a map of the soul's potential. The herbal remedies are not just medicine. They are proof that the divine is rooted in the earth, not floating in an unreachable heaven. The logic, the brutal, beautiful logic of Abelard, it isn't an attack on faith. It's a declaration that the human mind is itself a sacred space. This is the integrated worldview, the philosophy that empowers the individual. The velvet inside is hollowed out, a space not for a bone, but for something else. From a leather pouch at his belt, He removes a single object. It isn't holy. It isn't ancient. It's a key. Small, iron, and intricately cut. He places the key into the hidden compartment, his movements precise and silent. He closes the lid, the soft click echoing in the small room. He then takes the pig's knuckle, now the sacred finger of a martyr, and begins mounting it in the other reliquary, the one for public adoration. The lie hides within a lie. The cold dread in your stomach is no longer a feeling. It is a permanent resident, a block of ice that will never melt. But as his fingers tighten around yours, you feel something else. The faint crinkling whisper of parchment hidden in the sleeve of your gown. It's not the marriage contract. It's a different document entirely. A secret passed from your mother's hand to yours in a final, tearless embrace. It's a map, not of the territories just exchanged, but of the hidden survival network that whispers between women in the shadows of power. The sound is not a clean crack, but a heavy, sickening chop, like a butcher cleaving a joint of meat. A spray of red mists the air for a moment, before a great, guttural roar erupts from 1,000 throats. It's a sound of relief, of bloodlust, of fear. The coppery tang of fresh blood hits the back of your throat, thick and metallic. The spectacle is the message, screamed without a single word. This could be you. What they don't want you to know is that this is not justice. It is marketing. You kneel on the floor, the cold seeping through the thin wool of your leggings, a damp chill that settles deep in your bones. The air is thick, a heavy cocktail of sweet, cloying incense, the animal fat of 1,000 guttering candles, and the faint, sour smell of unwashed humanity huddled together in fear. A low, droning chant echoes from the altar, a sound designed to feel ancient and unbreakable. But all you can hear is the frantic thumping of your own heart against your ribs. In your sweaty palm, you clutch a single silver coin. Hidden within the intricate hand-drawn border, a sequence of letters and numbers begins to glow with a faint, ghostly light. It's a script written in an ink that only reveals itself after being touched by flame. It's not a prayer. It's a catalog number. A ghost from a library that was supposed to be ash. A secret breadcrumb trail leading away from the flames. It's a whisper that somewhere, somehow, something survived. It is the sound of steel turning against your bone. You grit your teeth until your jaw aches, a single tear cutting a hot track through the grime on your temple. The pressure builds, the scraping becomes a grinding, and you feel the vibration not in your ears, but in the very core of your being. This, you think, is the moment of death. But the historical record, the one they don't teach you, tells a different story. Archaeologists have unearthed thousands of medieval skulls with these same holes drilled in them, and the evidence is undeniable. The leather is impossibly cool, smooth as water over a river stone. This is it, Abelard's heresy, the source of everything the powerful tried to burn from the world. You open the cover. The dry crackle of the spine echoes in the tomb-like silence, a sound no one has heard for a century. The ink on the page is still black, defiant. The symbols you've been chasing, the medicine, the astronomy, the logic, you thought they were separate streams of knowledge. But you were wrong. 99% of people who seek the truth believe it's a puzzle with 1,000 scattered pieces. He sets the bone aside to dry and picks up its destination. A small gilded box, a reliquary studded with polished river stones that glitter like jewels in the lamplight. It is beautiful, meant to inspire awe, to make the grubby reality of its contents unthinkable. But then he does something you don't expect. He sets the box down and pulls another, nearly identical reliquary from a hidden space beneath his bench. This one is destined for the nunnery, a special commission. He opens its hinged lid. The law is a fortress, and the rich will always know the secret password to the gate. For everyone else, the walls are absolute. The priest anoints your head with holy oil. It feels greasy and cold. The stranger, your husband, takes your hand. His skin is dry and rough, like old leather. You are bound, a piece of property that can now produce heirs. This is your life. The stone walls of his castle will be your cage, his bed, your duty. His crime was read aloud an hour ago. Theft, treason, consorting with dark forces. A fiction spun from the bitter ink of a local lord he dared to question. The priest drones on, a final, hollow prayer that no one is listening to. They are listening for something else. They are waiting for the wet, percussive thud of the axe. The executioner, a man built like a barrel, hefts the steel. The crowd holds its breath. A collective silence so deep you can hear a dog barking 3 streets away. The axe falls. The stones of this cathedral are not cemented with mortar. They are bound by 1,000,000 invisible debts, each one a soul mortgaged against the promise of a less painful eternity. You look up, and you're supposed to see the glory of God in the soaring vaults of Gothic stone and stained glass. But what they don't want you to know is that this is not a house of worship. It is a bank, and your soul is its most valuable asset. The most effective way to control the future is to erase the past. A gust of wind sends a cascade of glowing embers into the sky, like a swarm of dying fireflies. One scorched fragment, a corner of a page, flutters down near your feet. You snatch it from the air, the heat a phantom sting against your cold fingers. The edge is a delicate black lace of carbon. Most of it is illegible, a testament to the fire's hunger. But as it cools in your palm, something impossible appears. The barber surgeon says the demon is just trapped air, bad humor, and he must give it a door to escape. A door through your own skull. This is trepanation. And 99% of people today, looking back through a sanitized history, assume it was a guaranteed, agonizing death sentence. They are wrong. The surgeon places the point of the drill against your shaven scalp. He doesn't pray. He whispers, "Stay still now, still as the dead." Someone holds your shoulders, their knuckles white. You hear a sound, a dry, rasping scrape, like a fingernail dragging across slate. The most dangerous secret in the world was never about what God wanted. It was about what you could become without him. The air in the archive beneath Paris is dead. It tastes of stone dust and forgotten ink, cold enough to make your breath a ghost. Your torchlight barely pushes back a darkness born 800 years ago, but darkness built to hide this one single room. You followed the clues, the scorched page, the hidden map, the cipher in the glass, and they all end here. You run your fingers over the forbidden text. He holds it to the lamp, his face a mask of intense concentration. He is no different from the men who will one day sell you miracle cures in a bottle, a piece of a celebrity's clothing, or a financial product based on nothing but a shared belief in its value. The mechanism is identical. Value is not intrinsic. It is manufactured through powerful storytelling. And no one tells a better story than the church. It was the ultimate mechanism for consolidating wealth into fewer, more powerful, and therefore more loyal hands. A stable aristocracy is a generous aristocracy, and the church always collected its tithe. Annulments? A convenient illusion. A legal loophole for the fabulously wealthy and politically connected. A classic example of creating a universal rule whose exceptions are for sale. It's the same cold principle behind modern tax laws with hidden escape routes designed for the 1%, or a justice system where the truth is less important than the price of your lawyer. You believe you are witnessing justice. You are not. You are a paying member of the audience for the most terrifying play ever staged, and the price of your ticket is your silence. The square is packed so tight you can smell the sour ale on the breath of the man behind you. Feel the nervous sweat of the woman to your left. A sea of upturned, hungry faces, all fixed on the splintered wooden stage where a man kneels. Not the sound of the death collectors. This is the sound of armor, of guards, of the bishop's men. Silence falls in the room, thick and absolute. You can hear the blood pounding in your ears. Your family has committed the ultimate crime. In a world defined by death, you have dared to survive. And someone has noticed. Not the ash of wood, but the specific silica-rich residue of parchment and papyrus, dense with the ghosts of non-religious texts. It's not a theory, it's a crime scene. The knowledge wasn't lost. It was hunted, it was confiscated, it was annihilated. This was the birth of institutional censorship, a strategy so effective it's still used today. When a modern government shuts down the internet during a protest, they are blowing on the embers of this same fire. When a powerful algorithm silently buries inconvenient articles and dissenting voices, it is building a cleaner, colder pyre. He's a barber surgeon, his sleeves rolled up past thick, hairy forearms. In his hand, he holds something that glints in the single flickering candlelight. It looks like a carpenter's brace, a wicked metal drill. This isn't an exorcism. This is surgery. For weeks, a demon has lived behind your right eye, a pounding pressure that steals your vision and makes the world scream. The village priest gave you holy water and prayers. The wise woman gave you poultices of nightshade. Nothing worked. The demon grew angrier, and now you are here, in this back room, choosing a forbidden path. The philosopher who loved a woman and logic in equal world-shattering measure, and was condemned for daring to apply one to God. The pattern isn't just a name, it's a map, pointing to a hidden alcove in the old library, to the place where his forbidden works, the books they claim to have burned, are waiting. The books that don't just contain answers, but teach the deadliest art of all, how to ask the perfect question. This small, stained piece of pig bone will build a new stone wall for a backwater town, buy a bishop a new set of robes, and feed this craftsman's family for a year. He is a pioneer in a business you would one day recognize. He sells not an object, but a story. He understands a dark truth of the human heart. A beautiful lie is often more valuable than a disappointing truth. He dips a rag into a dark stain and rubs it into the bone's pores, an artist creating a patina of false martyrdom. 99% of popular history paints medieval marriage as a romantic fantasy or a pious religious sacrament. The forbidden reality is that it was a brutal business transaction, a tool for controlling land, bloodlines, and women. And the church was the silent partner in the firm. What they never teach you is that the church's strict doctrines on monogamy and divorce weren't about protecting souls. They were about protecting property. By making marriage a permanent, holy sacrament, they ensured that the vast estates and titles, once joined together like yours and this old man's, could not be easily broken apart. But as you turn to melt back into the anonymity of the crowd, you feel eyes on you. It's Father Thomas. His smile is gone. He wasn't watching the storyteller. He was watching the crowd. He was watching you. He saw that you didn't laugh with the others. He saw the flicker of calculation in your eyes, the moment the fable became a blueprint. He may not speak your language, but he's beginning to suspect you can read his world perfectly. The story is over, but the danger has just begun. On it, in a neat, scholarly hand, are drawings of the very herbs your mother grinds, with notes on their properties. Below the elegant script is a strange set of numbers and letters, a code you don't understand, but you recognize the heading at the very top. De Re Botanica et Contagio. Applied Botany and Contagion. It's a page from the secret library we've been hunting for. Suddenly, a sound cuts through the muffled cries of the street. Not the cart, not a wail of grief. It's a hard, authoritative pounding on your front door. Thump, thump, thump. A pre-Christian philosophical treatise on the nature of the soul is next, its logic and reason consumed by dogmatic flame. This is an information apocalypse, orchestrated to reset civilization, to consolidate power in the hands of the few who decide which truths survive. For centuries, we were told this knowledge was simply lost, a casualty of societal collapse. But recent archaeological discoveries tell a different story. Using ground-penetrating radar at the ruins of great monasteries like Monte Cassino, they've found them, ash layers. They tell you medieval medicine was just butchery and prayer. The truth, hidden in the bone itself, is far more shocking. You were lying on a rough-hewn wooden table. The splinters dig into your back through the thin wool of your tunic. Your head is clamped in place, a leather strap biting into your chin. The metallic taste of fear, sharp and coppery, coats your tongue, drowning out the scent of burnt herbs and stale sweat in the small, windowless room. The man leaning over you is not a priest. As the master's voice rings out, a late afternoon sunbeam shifts, striking a specific pane in the great window above. The light hits the colored glass just so, and you see it. A pattern you recognize from the cipher key passed secretly among the most daring students. Your heart hammers against your ribs. Your fingers tremble as you trace the sequence in the air. The spiraling lead, the shards of ruby and sapphire glass, they form letters. A name whispered in condemnation, but revered in the lecture halls. Peter Abelard. 99% of the holy relics you might pray to, the splinters of the true cross, the vials of the Virgin's milk, the teeth of the apostles, are born in workshops just like this one. 300 years from now, the reformer John Calvin will calculate that if all the professed pieces of the true cross were gathered together, they would fill a cargo ship. This isn't about faith, it's about economics. A town with a powerful relic becomes a pilgrimage site, a medieval tourist trap. The pilgrims bring coin, they need beds, they buy food and holy trinkets. The priest drones on in a Latin you barely understand, but the meaning is brutally clear. This is not a union, it is an acquisition. You remember the night the agreement was sealed, not with a kiss or a promise, but with the dry scratch of a quill on vellum. The ASMR of your life being signed away. Your father's hand, calloused from his sword hilt, moved with the same emotion he'd used to sign a deed for a new mill. You are the currency. Your womb is the vault where the future of his dynasty will be secured. You feel a vibration in your pocket, the small carved wooden bird you carry. It's warm from your body. It marks you. It says you are one who listens to the story beneath the story. The catalog number on our page isn't just a number. When you cross-reference it with the Glogauer Liederbuch, a collection of peasant folk songs, it becomes a set of coordinates, a secret waiting. The storyteller finishes with a flourish, and coins, small, precious things, rain into his hat. The crowd begins to disperse, energized and emboldened, their faces hiding a new secret purpose. You see the echo of it today in every news cycle that manufactures terror to drive a political agenda, in every corporation that sells a cure for a problem it helped create. Fear is the currency of control. Your father bolts the door again, his back sliding down the rough wood as he exhales. He pulls a small, oilskin-wrapped bundle from beneath a loose floorboard. His hands, calloused from a lifetime of labor, are impossibly gentle as he unwraps it. It isn't a holy relic. It's a single, brittle page torn from a book. But what they don't want you to know is that these fires were an intellectual genocide. You watch in horror as the next volume is thrown. It's not a psalter, but a Roman engineering manual. Its intricate diagrams of aqueducts and gearworks blistering into nothing. Another follows, an Arabic medical encyclopedia, its pages filled with the wisdom of Avicenna, 1,000 years of healing turning to smoke. You can almost hear the pages scream. It's the wet, mournful hiss of vellum, the skin of 100 calves, crackling and shrinking in the heat. If you love immersive, real storytelling about survival, belief, and forgotten lives, hit like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Drop a comment with the medieval fact that surprised you most, or what role you think you'd play if you were born in the year 1287. Let's begin and live the life they never got to finish. But be warned, some truths about the past are harder to forget than others. 99% of people believe the Inquisition was created to hunt witches and Satanists. The forbidden truth is that it was built to hunt the human mind's ability to ask why. The Church's greatest enemy wasn't a fallen angel in a pit of fire. It was you, right now, on this bench, feeling the glorious, terrifying power of your own reason. This is the ancient battle, the one that never ends. It echoes today in every clash between scientific inquiry and blind dogma, in every political movement that demands loyalty over critical thought. It is the war on thinking itself. He takes a fine-toothed file and gently scrapes the surface. The sound, a dry, rhythmic whisper against the city's distant din. Shk, shk, shk. He is not just shaping it, he is giving it the texture of immense age, the feel of something that has rested in hallowed ground for 1,000 years. What they don't want you to know, what the Church will spend the next 8 centuries trying to hide, is that this man's workshop is not a rare den of sin. It's an industry. You stand at the altar, a ghost in a gown too heavy for your shoulders, and you do not look at the man beside you. He is a stranger, a name whispered in corridors, a man with a beard already threaded with gray, and eyes that assessed you the way a merchant assesses livestock. He is twice your age, maybe more. It doesn't matter. What matters are the 1,000 acres of forest that border your father's land, his land. Now, soon to be your husband's domain. A slash through a triangle on a tree means a patrol is near. It is a living, breathing network of shared knowledge, more vital, and more truthful than any royal scroll. It's the direct ancestor of the memes and coded slang people use centuries from now. Texting under the nose of digital surveillance, creating a space for truth that power cannot penetrate. A shared glance across the market square holds more legal weight for you than a dozen wax seals. The soft, confirming touch of a neighbor's hand on your arm is your signature on a contract of survival. This wasn't God picking favorites. It was a strategy, a human solution to a human problem. Why would they hide this? Why preach helplessness when proof of survival existed? Because a populace that can save itself does not need a savior. A flock that knows the cure for the wolf doesn't need a shepherd, especially one who profits from the slaughter. This is the oldest trick in the Book of Power. Manufacture a crisis, frame it as an act of God or nature, and then sell the only approved solution. Up higher, taller than a man, rages against the stone walls, its light painting the gargoyles in a frantic, dancing terror. Monks, their faces grim and illuminated, move with a chilling purpose. One of them, his jaw set like a tombstone, hefts a massive, leather-bound book. For a moment, you see the glint of gold leaf on the cover before he hurls it into the inferno. There's a soft whoosh as the dry parchment pages curl, blacken, and surrender to the fire. This isn't about heresy. 99% of people believe that only forbidden religious texts met this fate. They didn't just burn heretics. They burned the libraries of practical secular wisdom these people held. Near a supposed pagan site, archaeologists weren't looking for secrets, but they found them. Buried deep in the earth was a small, lead-lined box designed to survive fire. Inside, not gold or jewels, but a single, fire-scorched page from a book that shouldn't exist. This page is proof that the Dark Ages were never dark. They were extinguished. This tactic of creating a fearful, dependent population has never gone away. It just wears a different mask. He is listening for the sound of a Socratic inquiry, the click of a logical syllogism, the very act of a mind demanding proof instead of accepting faith. That, to him, is the true plague. What they don't want you to know is that the war against heresies like Catharism wasn't just about theology, it was about epistemology. It was a war on how you know what you know. The heretics encouraged direct, personal experience, a critical examination of the world that threatened the Church's absolute authority as the sole gatekeeper of truth. Shavings of wood and bone litter the floor. Jars of powders, oils, and dark, viscous liquids line a grimy shelf. The air is thick with the scent of hot wax and something acrid, like vinegar mixed with earth. The man holds a piece of bone in his calloused hands, turning it over and over. It's a pig's knuckle, scavenged from the butcher's refuse pile this morning. By sunset, it will be the finger of Saint Sebastian. You watch, your breath caught in your throat, as he begins his unholy work. The most dangerous document in the Middle Ages wasn't a declaration of war. It was a marriage contract. What they don't want you to know is that these contracts were weapons, and love had nothing to do with it. You are 14 years old. The veil pinned to your hair smells faintly of lavender. A desperate attempt to mask the scent of old stone and damp wool that fills the chapel. It doesn't work. All you can smell is the cold sweat of your own fear. When you press your thumbprint or scratch an X onto a document a clerk shoves in your face, you are a ghost signing away your life. You've just agreed to give up your land, your rights, your child's future, without understanding a single syllable. But you aren't powerless. You're part of an information underground, a resistance hiding in plain sight. This is an internet woven from songs, from knots tied into a rope and left on a well, from symbols carved into the back of a church pew. A circle with a dot means a safe haven. It's a mixture of lard and herbs, so powerful it makes you gag. The plague collectors, seeing the strange mark and smelling the potent ward, will pass you by, believing your home already claimed by a demon or a lesser contagion. Let them. This forbidden truth, that human ingenuity could fight this, was the deadliest heresy of all. The story was buried, but the records survive for those who know where to look. In cities like Milan, which enforced brutal martial law quarantines, sealing the sick inside their own homes with the healthy, the mortality rate was dramatically, miraculously lower. They call them the Dark Ages to hide a terrible secret. The forbidden truth is that the darkness was never an absence of light, but a shadow cast by flames. You smell it before you see it. It's not the familiar scent of wood smoke from the village hearths. This is sharper, acrid, with a cloying sweetness underneath. It's the smell of burning knowledge. The air, thick with it, coats the back of your throat. You follow the scent through a cloistered archway into a monastery courtyard, and the cold night air is suddenly violently hot on your face. You see her hands, stained with dirt and herbs, mixing a poultice that can stop an infection dead, a knowledge of chemistry passed down for generations. This wisdom was power, and it was a threat. You've never seen a toothbrush. You believe demons live in fog. Your town blames goats for the plague. Welcome to the Middle Ages. What they don't want you to know is that this ignorance was a weapon. In records sealed by the church for centuries, they called it purification. It was a war on knowledge. But then your gaze drifts to the shadows near the rear door. A man stands there, his Dominican robes a slash of black and white against the gray stone. He is utterly still, an inquisitor. While others lean forward, scribbling notes on wax tablets, he just watches and listens. And you realize the terrifying truth. He isn't waiting for someone to deny the Trinity or praise the devil. He is listening for the method. You believe the bone of a saint is the most sacred thing on earth, but the holiest object in your world is a lie, and you are about to watch it being made. The alley stinks of sour wine and boiled cabbage, a narrow crack between leaning timber houses where the sun never fully reaches. Here, in a dusty workshop lit by a single sputtering tallow lamp, a man hunches over a workbench. He is not a priest. He is not a holy man. He is a master of the sacred lie. Your eyes adjust to the gloom. It is the constitution of the Guild of the Hungry, the proof that they were not victims. They were organized. They were brilliant. And as your eyes trace a single damning line, you see it connects the Lord's gamekeeper to the network's central cache. It wasn't a map of just allies. It was a map that recorded their greatest secret and their greatest betrayal. When the shadow touches the stone, leave the honey well alone. It means move the grain tonight when the monastery bell tower's shadow falls across the old standing stone. This is the forbidden language. What they don't want you to know is that your inability to read their Latin isn't a failure of your education. It is the success of their control. Literacy for them is a firewall, a locked gate. The thick vellum deeds, the tax decrees, the legal judgments, all written in a language spoken only by priests and nobles, are chains forged from ink. They flog themselves in the streets. They kiss the rings of bishops. They pour their last coins into the collection boxes, hoping to buy salvation. They die anyway. Their bodies are piled on the cart like firewood, their prayers unanswered. But here, in your quarantined home, a different kind of faith is practiced. Your father unbars the door just a crack, his face covered by a cloth soaked in the same sharp vinegar as your tonic. He smears a pungent, greasy salve across the wood, a new layer over the old. The priest would tell you it's a demon's sigil, irrefutable proof of a pact with hell. But you are one of the few who knows the truth. It isn't the mark of a devil. It's an old herbalist's mark, a botanical sign passed down through generations. It's the symbol for a powerful, dangerous abortifacient. In a world where your body is not your own, this knowledge isn't just power, it's heresy. And they will burn more than just books to keep it a secret. The air is so thick with wood smoke, you can taste it on your tongue, a soundless crackle in the back of your throat. Beneath that, there's another scent, sharp, green, and clean. It's the crushed leaves of yarrow and willow bark, a scent of knowledge. Here, the woman they call an uneducated peasant isn't just a farmer. You watch her tilt her head back, not in prayer, but to read the star charts of the night sky, a living calendar that tells her when to plant. The master at the rostrum, his face alive with intellectual fire, isn't quoting scripture. He's wielding logic like a sword, dissecting a proposition from Aristotle, turning it over and over to see its facets. He asks the students, "But if this is true, what must else be true? Let us follow the path of reason and see where it leads." It's intoxicating. This is the new magic, the new alchemy, not turning lead to gold, but turning ignorance into understanding. One logical step at a time. Your mind feels like a cluttered room that's finally having its windows thrown open. The flame of your candle dances wildly, as if trying to warn you before a sudden draft from beneath the door nearly snuffs it out. A large shadow eclipses the sliver of light, and you hear the faint, terrible sound of a metal latch beginning to turn. But when you pry up a loose stone in the hearth, your fingers find not metal, but the corner of a brittle, folded piece of vellum. You pull it out. The candlelight reveals not a charter or a deed, but a map. It's not a map of territory, not of rivers or roads. It's a map of the network. Lines drawn in faded ink connect farms to hollow trees, market stalls to church crypts. It's a web of names, symbols, and locations, a blueprint of defiance. The new tithe of honey is the crippling grain tax he announced last Sunday, the one that will starve half the village come winter. And the 3 hollow logs by the Whispering Creek. That's the landmark. The 3 fallen oaks by the Wicker Brook, a place just beyond the Lord's patrol route. This isn't a story. It's an urgent, encrypted message. It's telling every family here exactly where to hide their grain before the reeve comes to collect it tomorrow at dawn. The storyteller's rhythmic refrain, a seemingly nonsensical rhyme about a magpie, is the timing. It burns your throat and makes your eyes water, but you drink every last drop. You have every day since the first death bell tolled for your city. What they don't want you to know is that this is not a prayer. This is medicine. Outside, the priests tell the weeping masses that this is divine punishment. They preach that only penitence, fervent prayer, and generous donations to the church can turn God's fury. 99% of the people, shivering with fear and faith, believe them. It's a tactic that echoes loudly today in the way alternative medicine and holistic practices, so often championed by women, are systematically discredited by mainstream establishments. The goal is, and always has been, the same: discredit, absorb, and control any system of knowledge that operates outside of a centralized, profitable authority. The wise woman thumbs through a book with a scorched leather cover. You hear the whisper-like scrape of her fingernail, hardened by a lifetime of digging roots against the brittle page. It's a dry, dusty sound, like secrets being unearthed. She points to a symbol drawn in faded ink. The greatest lie ever told isn't about dragons. It's the one that made you believe your ancestors were fools. It's the story of their ignorance, a story carefully crafted by the very people who claim to be saving their souls. But the truth, buried under 800 years of manufactured history, will change everything. Forget the castles and kings. Right now, it's 1100 AD. You are standing on damp earth, deep in a forest that has no name on any map.